About matters politics 2022, the handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Odinga. Where does it leave NASA core principals, specifically ANC Party leader Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper Party, and of course Ford Kenya leader, that is Moses Wetangula. And this morning, let's talk to ANC Party leader Musalia Mudavadi, who's joined us in our studio this morning. And thank you so much, Honorable Mudavadi, for talking to us. Let's begin first with the meeting that you had with allow me to call them last year's election losers. What does it mean politically?
Well, I just want to say this, that I did meet Central Kenya politicians of important standing in the Kenyan politics. So I think it is in bad taste to simply regard them as election losers. I think we need to define a better way of approaching the Kenyan people and more so leaders. Now, I met them and we had a good session and we discussed matters that are important to this country. These include the state of the nation. It also includes how any possible amendments to the Constitution should be approached, what should be done to sustain the fight against corruption, and at the same time, how can we continue to enforce national cohesion. So these are the issues that we discussed with them.
Core principal Raila Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta, will it have any effect when it comes to 2022 politics? Does it mean it sort of scuttles Deputy President William Ruto's ambitions of being the president of this nation in 2022?
I think we may be speculating too much about the handshake, and I think I would like to urge the Kenyans to sober up and to try and figure out what kind of premium are we actually giving to the handshake. I think it is important that people work together, people reach out to each other. But we have 3 years to go to the actual election. And 3 years is a long time in politics, and a lot of things can happen in between. But in terms of what the handshake has been able to yield at this point in time, yes, it has yielded a measure of tranquility in the political arena. And that is good, so that people can have time to reflect on other issues. But I think we should be realistic.
Okay, Honorable, sorry for cutting you, but even as much as you're speaking about, the handshake bringing a lot of political tranquility in the country and peace after the hotly contested election that NASA lost to Jubilee, but you're also in record actually saying that you are not aware of that handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and your core principal Raila Odinga, and at the same time you're also in record as saying that you are not even ready to take any appointment from government. Were you talking out of political bitterness because you were not involved in this handshake?
No, I was speaking the facts. The fact of the matter, when the handshake took place and how it was negotiated, I was not in the know. That is a fact. So it is not a question of bitterness. It is stating the fact as it is. All right? And the second point is that as a matter of principle, we are a multi-party state. And we should learn to cultivate the politics of principle in our nation. The government in power is a Jubilee government. We were competitors. We were not given the mandate. Even if we may dispute it, the mandate is now in the hands of Jubilee. So the reality of it is that we are opposition, and we should define ourselves as opposition and define ourselves as a responsible opposition and loyal to the Kenyan people, including loyal to the head of state. That is how the Constitution envisages a multi-party democracy in our country.
So as much as you're saying that NASA needs to act as the opposition, you are in opposition. But let's talk about the president's sentiments while he was in Kisumu County recently, last week rather. And he said there is no opposition because NASA is in government after the handshake. What would you like to say about that? And do we still have an opposition in this country as we speak, following the president's sentiments?
Yes, there is an opposition. And the president said that, but I can tell you that the president may have outwitted some individuals. But clearly, the opposition is there. And the opposition should not be defined as individuals. I think this is where we're also going wrong. The opposition should be seen as an institution. All right? The opposition in this country is not Musalia Mudavadi as an individual, or Raila Odinga as an individual, or Kalonzo Musyoka as an individual. We should learn to look at opposition as an institution. And there are other key players who have contrary views from the civil society, from the church, and other important entities in this country who have different or contrary opinion. And I think we should help in shaping that. Let us redefine what opposition is in our country. Let us move away from the position, from the notion that opposition is nothing but belligerence. Opposition is nothing but causing chaos. Opposition is nothing but picketing. We must move away from that line of thought.
But you're saying that the opposition is not an individual and that the opposition is still there. But let's look at the debates in Parliament, especially the National Assembly. Let's start with the finance bill. The opposition was supposed to be there to put put things in check when it comes to what the government is doing. But what we saw your core principal rally his party members of Parliament to support that bill against what Kenyans wanted. Let's also talk about the two-thirds gender rule. We've also seen again the opposition working together with the government to ensure that the two-thirds gender bill is implemented. So where is the opposition exactly? Because we are seeing a game whereby the government, that is the Jubilee administration, NASA members of Parliament working together with the government, also at the expense of Kenyans.
There you have a point. There you have a point that sometimes working with government may be necessary. But at the same time, I have acknowledged constantly that at this point in time, there are challenges within the framework of the opposition. It may not be dead, but we can see that within the context of Parliament, there is a genuine state of people being in limbo, not knowing whether to define themselves as being in government or to define themselves as being in opposition. And this is why I stand out and say, as the last man standing in the context of principle, that the opposition should not renege on its role. It may support government on certain motions from time to time, but it should not negate its role as the opposition. And unfortunately, on this one, there are instances where the opposition has lost cause in Parliament.
So why are you calling yourself as the last man standing? Yet NASA coalition has 4 principles. You have yourself, ANC Party leader. There is Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper Party. There is Raila Odinga of ODM Party. There is, we also have Moses Wetangula of Ford Kenya. So why are you calling yourself as the last man standing? Are you trying to say that your core principles have failed?
I think I've been baptized that by the media, and I don't think it's a bad name. I'll continue carrying it as the last man standing. But the position I'm trying to put across here is that in reality, if you are in opposition and you're seen or the perception is that you have shifted from that position, abandoned that position, and gone to work with the government, then it means that you're conflicted. It means that you've been gagged, because in the spirit of collective responsibility, you cannot continue to speak freely on national issues if the government or the president says hawa wameingia kwa serikali ndani, then you are now bound by his policies. You are bound by his positions, and you must talk in the context of collective responsibility. So when I say I'm outside, I am sticking to the principles that we originally stood for, that at this point in time, we cannot all move in a direction where we are seen to becoming a one-party system.
Call for a referendum.
Sorry?
Let's talk about the call for a referendum. Your core principal, Raila Odinga, together with his party, ODM, have been very, very vocal when it comes to having a referendum. What would you like to say about it? Do you support that call for a referendum? Because there has been questions in terms of this referendum aims at only creating political seats.
I think that would be a very dangerous trend if that was the only aim. But as far as I'm concerned, in our NASA document, which is registered with the political party's office, it is very clear we had indicated there will be need to review some sections of the Constitution going forward. So in terms of the need for review of the Constitution, we are on board. All right? Now, the question is this. The referendum will come, but we have not yet reached that stage. There are obstacles in between, obstacles around the IEBC. We must sort them out. Number two, we must have serious national dialogue so that we can isolate the issues that will go to form the referendum question. As we speak now, there's no referendum question before the Kenyans.
All right, and lastly, as we bring this conversation to an end, it will not end without me asking you, will you be on the ballot come 2022 as a presidential candidate?
Yes, I have said so, and I say yes.
So which party?
As things stand, I'm the party leader of ANC. Going forward, maybe there could be new formations about coalitions, but as of now, I am the party leader of ANC.
All right. We'll see how that plays out, Honorable Mudavadi, whether you go it alone as NC party leader or whether you'll form another alliance or whether NASA will stay until 2022. We'll see how that transpires out at the end of the day, but we still have 3 more years to go. All right. Thank you so much for talking to us here on KTN News Center. Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, NC party leader, talking to us about 2022 politics, the handshake between Raila Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta. Now,